Listen, a woman's real power ain't in how loud she moves, how much she chases, or how much she gives of herself to be seen. A woman's real power is in what she withholds, in what she protects, in what she don't give away so easily. That's the energy that makes men respect her, chase her, and never forget her. Detachment is the key. When you master detachment, you master control. When you really think about attraction and human nature, you'll notice that people are naturally drawn to what feels rare, valuable, and not easily accessible. This is the foundation of the first key point. Men, by instinct, are hunters. They are wired to pursue, to chase, and to fight for what they want. But when something is already in their hands without effort, they lose interest quickly. The same way someone doesn't value free money as much as money they worked hard for. A man won't truly value a woman who constantly makes herself too available, too predictable, and too easy to reach. That's where detachment comes in. By stepping back and not placing yourself on a silver platter, you instantly create value, because you're showing that you are not something to be claimed without effort. This is not about playing games, it is about understanding your worth. A diamond is treasured not only because it is beautiful, but because it is rare. If diamonds were scattered everywhere on the ground like pebbles, people wouldn't care to pick them up. Scarcity creates demand, demand creates value, and value commands respect. When a woman embraces detachment, she is reminding a man that she is not a common experience, that her presence is not guaranteed, and that her love is not something he can take for granted. This shift in energy changes everything. Instead of constantly trying to win him over, constantly worrying if he will stay, or constantly proving yourself to him, you flip the script. You let him see that you have options, that you have a life, that you are not standing still waiting for his validation. Suddenly, he feels the need to invest, because his instincts tell him that anything scarce must be preserved. He knows that if he doesn't give effort, someone else might, and that makes him put more energy into keeping you close. The irony is that when you stop chasing, you start attracting. Men are naturally compelled to seek out what they cannot fully possess, and detachment becomes the silent language that communicates. If you want me, you'll have to work for it. That is the beauty of scarcity. It's not about pretending to be less available. It's about truly being busy, truly having your own lane, truly living a life where he is not the center but only a part of your world. That energy makes a man look at you differently. He no longer feels he can predict your every move, and that uncertainty keeps him intrigued. Scarcity gives him a reason to keep pursuing, and that pursuit is what keeps respect alive. Now, while scarcity is powerful, it is incomplete without discipline. This brings us into the second key point. Detachment does not mean becoming cold, heartless, or incapable of love. It means having the discipline to set boundaries, to love without losing yourself, and to care without clinging. Too many people mistake attachment for love, but attachment often leads to dependency, and dependency strips you of power. When you are too attached, you give the other person control over your emotions, your happiness, and even your self-worth. Detachment is the opposite. It is the art of balancing love with self-respect. You can give your heart, but you never hand over your soul. You can show care, but you don't make someone else the source of your identity. This discipline makes you stronger, calmer, and more in control. Think about how discipline works in every other part of life. If you want financial freedom, you need the discipline to save and invest instead of spending recklessly. If you want a strong body, you need the discipline to eat clean and work out instead of giving into every craving. Detachment works the same way in relationships. It requires emotional discipline. You choose not to overact, you choose not to beg, you choose not to chase. You can feel love deeply, but you don't let that feeling blind you to disrespect. You can want someone, but you don't sacrifice your dignity to keep them. That level of discipline makes you magnetic because it communicates strength. People, especially men, are drawn to strength they cannot break. When you are detached in the right way, you give off the message that you have your own life, your own priorities, your own dreams, and that no matter what happens in the relationship, you will still stand tall. This doesn't mean you push people away. In fact, it often draws them closer because people crave stability and security. A detached woman is not unstable, she is balanced, she doesn't lose herself in love, and that balance creates an aura of peace. Men feel it, they notice it, and they become more invested because peace is rare in a world full of chaos. Discipline also prevents you from pouring energy into people who don't deserve it. When you are detached, you can step back and see clearly whether his actions match his words, whether he respects your boundaries, and whether he truly values you. If he doesn't, you walk away without fear, because your discipline has taught you that your value is not dependent on him. That is power in its purest form. This balance of scarcity and discipline transforms relationships. It forces men to rise to the occasion. It commands respect without words, and it keeps your self-worth intact no matter what. When you master these two principles, you shift from being someone who chases love to someone who attracts it naturally. That attraction is not based on desperation or fear of losing, but on genuine confidence and self-control. Detachment becomes a shield that protects your peace and a magnet that pulls in respect. It is the discipline to love yourself first and the awareness to never give more than what is deserved. Scarcity makes them value you, and discipline makes you unshakable in that value. Together, these two principles create the kind of energy that men cannot resist, because it is rooted in strength, confidence, and a deep sense of self-respect. Men respect what they have to earn. This truth cuts across every area of life. People value most what they invest the most in. If something is handed to you without effort, it is often taken for granted, but when sweat, time, and sacrifice are poured into something, it becomes priceless. Relationships work the same way. A woman who practices detachment naturally places herself in a position where a man has to earn her attention, her time, and her heart. That process of earning is what creates respect. When he has to work for your energy, when he has to prove himself before gaining access to you, the weight of that effort makes him appreciate you more. The more he invests, the more he values, and the more he values, the less likely he is to lose sight of your worth. Think of it like building a business from the ground up. The entrepreneur who puts in endless hours, invests his savings, and takes risks to bring an idea to life will guard that business with everything he has. He won't gamble it away because it cost him too much to build. But someone who gets the same business for free without sacrifice may let it fail because it never demanded his blood, sweat, and tears. That same principle applies to relationships. When you detach and refuse to give everything away easily, you force a man to put in the effort. That effort is the foundation of his respect. Every date he plans, every step he takes to prove his intentions, every compromise he makes is an investment that builds value in his own eyes. When he has to work for something, he tells himself it must be worth it. This is why detachment is never about being cold or uninterested, but about understanding your value. Too many people fall into the trap of over-giving early on, thinking that the more they do, the more they will be loved. But in reality, it creates the opposite effect. It teaches a man that he doesn't need to do much to keep you, that your love and loyalty are free and unlimited. Over time, this can create complacency and even disrespect. But when you detach, when you hold back and allow him to earn each step closer, you set a different tone. You communicate without words that your time is valuable, that your love has a standard, and that nothing comes without effort. That message resonates deeply because effort always builds respect. Now let's move into the fourth point. Detachment brings peace, and peace is one of the most powerful and attractive qualities a person can have. In a world filled with noise, arguments, drama, and chaos, peace becomes rare. Too many women lose themselves in the cycle of chasing after men, trying to fix what's broken, and begging for consistency that was never there to begin with. That lifestyle drains energy, clouds the mind, and strips away self-respect. But when you detach, you put your peace above everything. You protect your mental and emotional state first, and that changes the entire energy you give off. Peace is magnetic. When you walk into a room calm, centered, and unbothered, people notice. It is the opposite of desperation, and desperation is what pushes people away. A peaceful woman doesn't need to prove her worth to anyone. She doesn't need to scream for attention or fight for love, because her energy already speaks louder than her words. That calmness tells everyone around her that she is in control of her emotions, and that control is deeply attractive. A man may not even be able to explain it, but he feels it. He senses that he is dealing with someone who won't break under pressure, who won't create unnecessary drama, and who knows how to carry herself with strength. This peace also shifts the balance in relationships. Instead of constantly reacting to his behavior, constantly worrying about what he is doing, or constantly trying to control outcomes, you step back. You allow things to unfold without letting them disturb your inner state. That composure puts you in a position of power. It forces him to realize that your world does not revolve around him, and that realization creates both respect and intrigue. Peace tells him that you are not desperate, that you are not afraid of being alone, and that you are not clinging to him for validation. It tells him that you are complete with or without him, and that energy is irresistible. On a deeper level, peace is healing. It keeps you grounded in your own purpose, your own goals, and your own life. It prevents you from wasting energy on things you cannot control and teaches you to focus on what truly matters. When you detach, you don't get caught up in the small battles. You don't drown in arguments. You don't waste nights crying over mixed signals, and you don't allow temporary emotions to destroy your long-term peace. Instead, you rise above it all, protecting your energy like it is sacred. Because it is, and that sacred energy is what makes you different from the rest. A man who encounters a woman who carries peace feels the difference immediately. She doesn't nag, she doesn't beg, she doesn't overreact to every little thing. Instead, she maintains her composure, and that composure demands respect. He begins to realize that this is not the type of woman who will settle for chaos, and if he wants to be in her life, he has to bring the same level of stability. This makes him step up because peace creates a standard. It says that only those who match your energy can remain in your space. Detachment is the pathway to that peace. By not attaching your happiness to someone else's actions, by not clinging to outcomes, and by not over-investing in what doesn't deserve your energy, you create a life where your emotions are not controlled by others. That independence is the root of your glow. Men are drawn to it because deep down everyone craves peace. It is rare, it is valuable, and it is unforgettable. When you decide to step back instead of chasing, you create space for a man to step forward. This is where the power of detachment really shows itself. The fifth point is about how detachment forces a man to rise to the occasion. Relationships, like everything else in life, thrive on balance. When one person is doing all the pursuing, all the calling, all the probing, the other gets comfortable doing nothing. That imbalance kills attraction and destroys respect over time. But when you detach, when you stop overextending yourself, you flip the energy. Suddenly he is faced with a choice. Either he steps up and makes the effort to keep you, or he risks losing you. That pressure alone separates men who are serious from those who only play games. A man thrives in the chase, but that chase only exists when you aren't handing him everything on a silver platter. Detachment creates the distance that makes him realize your love is not guaranteed, that your presence requires effort, and that you are not waiting around endlessly. This is not about manipulation, it's about letting nature take its course. Men are wired to prove themselves. They want to feel they earn something worth keeping. By not chasing, by holding to your standards and refusing to fold, you give him the chance to show whether he is worthy of your energy. Detachment creates polarity, the natural pull between masculine pursuit and feminine restraint. It sets the rhythm of the relationship in a way that keeps respect alive. When you don't fold under pressure, when you stand firm in what you expect, it communicates something powerful without you saying a word. It says you value yourself enough not to settle. It says you will not lower your standards for temporary attention. That silent message makes a man think twice before taking you lightly. He knows that if he doesn't step up, someone else might, and that realization fuels his desire to pursue you even harder. The absence of your constant chasing becomes the very thing that drives his effort. Detachment makes you less accessible, and that scarcity awakens his natural instinct to chase. This is how men are wired, and when you understand it, you stop wasting energy on trying to prove yourself and instead focus on maintaining your own standards. That shift makes him invest more, and the more he invests, the more he values. Moving into the sixth point, detachment builds self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation of everything. Without self-respect, you cannot set boundaries, you cannot demand respect from others, and you cannot maintain peace in your life. Too many women lose themselves in relationships because they put the man above themselves. They tolerate lies, disrespect, inconsistency, and broken promises just to avoid being alone. But every time you accept less than you deserve, you chip away at your own self-respect. Over time, that damages your confidence, your energy, and your ability to see your own value. Detachment changes that completely. When you practice detachment, you are essentially saying that no matter how much you care about someone, you will never betray yourself. You will never lower your worth to keep someone who doesn't meet your standards. That kind of self-respect radiates through everything you do. It shows in the way you speak, in the way you carry yourself, and in the way you respond to disrespect. A woman who respects herself will not tolerate someone playing with her time or emotions. She will walk away without hesitation, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares about herself enough to leave what doesn't serve her. That ability to walk away is one of the strongest forms of power you can have. It tells the world that your value is non-negotiable. Men feel that energy. They may test it, they may push against it, but when they realize you are serious, their respect for you increases. Self-respect also protects you from the trap of dependency. When you depend on someone else for your sense of worth, you lose control of your life. But when you respect yourself deeply, you never hand that control away. You remain in charge of your emotions, your happiness, and your future. Detachment is how you enforce that respect. It teaches you to step back when your standards are not met. It reminds you that silence is more powerful than begging. It strengthens your ability to choose yourself even when it hurts. And every time you choose yourself, you rebuild that inner foundation stronger than before. A man who encounters a woman with this level of self-respect cannot help but see her differently. She is not desperate, she is not needy, she is not someone he can string along. She is clear in what she stands for, and that clarity commands respect. It may intimidate some, but it also attracts the kind of man who is ready to step up and meet her where she stands. Self-respect sets the tone for how others treat you. If you value yourself highly, others have no choice but to follow or fall away. Detachment and self-respect go hand in hand. Detachment is the action, self-respect is the foundation. Together, they protect your energy, attract genuine effort, and eliminate those who only want to take advantage. A woman with self-respect becomes unforgettable because she is rare. In a world where too many people settle for less, she stands tall in her worth. That strength, that ability to say no when it matters is what makes her stand out. And when a man realizes he cannot break, that he begins to see her as irreplaceable. Mystery has always been one of the most powerful forces of attraction, and that is exactly what detachment creates. When a man feels he has completely figured you out, when he feels there are no layers left to discover, his effort begins to fade. Certainty often breeds complacency. But when you maintain a sense of mystery, when you hold parts of yourself back instead of laying everything bare, you spark curiosity that doesn't fade easily. Detachment plays a huge role in this because it shows that you are not always available, not always predictable, and not always willing to expose every corner of your life and emotions. That subtle restraint leaves room for imagination, and imagination is what keeps someone invested. Think of the most captivating books or movies you've ever experienced. The story didn't give you everything at once. It revealed just enough to pull you in, but kept you hooked by leaving pieces unsaid, unanswered, and unrevealed until the right moment. Human relationships work the same way. When you detach and protect parts of yourself, you create intrigue. He begins to wonder what you're thinking, where you stand, what you're feeling, and what you might do next. That wondering is what keeps him engaged. Mystery is not about hiding who you are. It is about revealing yourself with intention. It is about understanding that not everyone deserves immediate access to your deepest layers. This mystery also keeps the energy fresh. Many relationships fail not because of lack of love, but because they lose that spark of curiosity. When everything becomes routine, predictable, and exposed, the excitement fades. But when you hold back just enough, when you detach from oversharing, when you keep your world rich and full outside of him, you maintain that sense of newness. He never feels like he has you fully in his pocket, and that lack of complete certainty keeps his effort alive. Detachment allows you to control how much of yourself you reveal and when, and that control is what keeps the attraction strong. Mystery also protects your emotional power. When you don't expose every thought, every insecurity, and every weakness too soon, you keep your strength intact. You maintain control over what he knows and how he perceives you. That control makes you less vulnerable to being taken advantage of. A mysterious woman is not easy to manipulate because she doesn't put all her cards on the table. She leaves him guessing, and that guessing game is what fuels desire. The truth is, people are more fascinated by what they don't fully understand than by what's completely obvious. Detachment creates that effect naturally. Then comes the 8th point, which ties everything together. Detachment makes you irreplaceable. In a world where too many women are willing to beg for love, tolerate disrespect, and give away their energy freely, the woman who stands firm in her detachment becomes unforgettable. She doesn't settle, she doesn't beg, and she doesn't allow herself to be treated as an option. That strength is rare, and rarity is what makes someone impossible to replace. A man may encounter many women who are available, who are willing to give without receiving, who are eager to adjust themselves just to keep him. But when he meets a woman who refuses to break her boundaries, who refuses to compromise her self-respect, and who can detach and walk away when her standards are not met, she stands apart. She becomes the one who lingers in his mind long after she is gone. Why? Because she represented something different. She represented discipline, peace, self-respect, and mystery. She was not ordinary. Ordinary is forgettable, but extraordinary leaves a mark. Irreplaceability comes from being true to yourself. It comes from living a full life outside of him, from having goals, passions, and dreams that don't revolve around any relationship. It comes from being able to love deeply but still choose yourself first. Detachment teaches you this because it strengthens your independence. It shows you that you can survive, thrive, and glow with or without him. That energy cannot be duplicated because it is rooted in authenticity. Men often think they want a woman who will do anything for them, but in reality, they end up respecting and longing for the woman who had the courage to not do everything. They respect the one who required effort, who demanded consistency, and who never sacrificed herself just to stay. That kind of woman becomes a standard in their memory, the one they compare others to, the one they realize too late they cannot replace. Detachment builds this level of strength because it ensures you never lose yourself in trying to keep someone else. Being irreplaceable doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean never making mistakes or never showing emotion. It means carrying yourself in a way that communicates strength, independence, and value at all times. It means refusing to become ordinary by giving yourself away too easily. It means knowing that your presence is a gift and treating it as such. Detachment ensures that gift is never taken for granted. It ensures that if someone wants to be in your life, they must consistently prove they deserve the privilege. That standard is what elevates you above the rest. Together, mystery and irreplaceability make a woman unforgettable. Mystery keeps the attraction alive, while irreplaceability makes her stand out in a world full of copies. Detachment is the common thread that makes both possible. It creates distance that fuels curiosity and builds respect. It enforces boundaries that protect self-worth. It allows you to walk away when necessary and remain whole in the process. These qualities are not just attractive, they are magnetic, powerful, and lasting. They make a man realize that what he has in front of him is not something he can take lightly, because once it is gone, he may never find it again. At the heart of everything we've explored, detachment is not about playing hard to get or pretending to care less than you do. It is about living from a place of strength, discipline, and self-respect. It is about knowing that your value is not determined by how much you give to others, but by how much you honor yourself first. Scarcity makes you valuable, discipline keeps you centered. Effort builds respect, peace protects your glow, self-respect secures your boundaries, mystery keeps the spark alive, and irreplaceability makes your presence unforgettable. When you put all of this together, you create a type of energy that men cannot ignore because it is rooted in confidence and authenticity. The power of female detachment lies in the fact that it forces everything around you to align with your worth. It demands that men step up, it filters out those who aren't serious, and it leaves only those willing to match your energy. It makes you unforgettable, not because you tried to be, but because you chose yourself at every turn. That is what makes the difference between being an option and being the standard. Thank you for tuning in and giving your time and attention to this message. Your presence here means everything, and I appreciate the energy you bring to this community. Stay strong, stay disciplined, and keep honoring yourself above all else. Much love and respect to you all.